Okay, if you've clicked on the thumbnail of this video, you know that I'm not going to be saying great things about Microsoft Whiteboard today. And I'm disappointed that I'm not going to be saying great things. I was really excited for the new version of Microsoft Whiteboard, which was released for Teams and for the web. I thought that there'd be new features that would build upon the product that I really like. Unfortunately, with the new version that came out, a lot of the things that we used to be able to do in the previous version have simply disappeared. And that's a problem because some of the things that we could do previously were really key in being able to use the product for teaching and presentations. And without those features, I'm really questioning whether I'm going to be able to use this product in my own classrooms or whether I'm going to have to go to some third-party alternative until those features return or until they resolve the issues that I'm going to identify in this video. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but it's better to be aware of some of the limitations of the product that are pretty critical. Let's go have a look. There are a couple ways that I can get to the Microsoft Whiteboard. If I'm on a web browser, I can just go in and put in whiteboard.microsoft.com. And if I put in that URL, it'll allow me to log in with my Microsoft account. And I've automatically logged in. And then I can create a new whiteboard. This will allow me to create a new whiteboard and I can start working with it. The other option I have is I can go into Microsoft Teams. Underneath Microsoft Teams, if I start a meeting, underneath the meeting here, you can see I'm waving here. I can go in, join this meeting. I can now go in, share a whiteboard, and you can see here this will also be connected to my account, and I'll have a Microsoft Whiteboard in here that I can work with and I can collaborate with others. That's great. You can see the cameras here. Let's just minimize that for now, and we'll work on the Microsoft Whiteboard that's here. So I've got my web-based Microsoft Whiteboard. I can go and give it a new name. So I'll call this YouTube Demo. Now, a lot of features here are what we would expect. They may have a little bit of a different look for us, but they are still the same features that we're used to. I have pens. If I go into my pen, let's say I'll go into the black pen here, and I can go in and I can do things such as change the thickness of the pen. I can go in and I can change the color of the pen. And I now have a new option where I can automatically add arrowheads either to one end or both ends of a line that I draw. You can see this with my, here's my black pen. You can see with my red pen, if I draw a line, it'll automatically put an arrow at the end. And we'll grab this pen here. We'll go ahead and make this a green pen. We'll put this with double arrowheads. And now if I draw a line, you'll see it puts double arrowheads on it. That's a nice little handy feature, little cosmetic change. Highlighter, eraser, lasso if I want to select an object. So I can select an object here, and then you can choose to say delete it. You can also do this new feature here called convert to shape. It won't detect a shape within this, but if I drew something like a triangle, I'll draw a triangle here, and now I'll go ahead and select that triangle. When I select that triangle, if I say convert to shape, it will convert it into a triangle shape. Same thing would happen if I went in and drew a circle. It's not a very great circle. I go in and I can lasso it, and I can then go in, convert that into a shape, and it'll draw it into a much better circle. We can also go into my settings here, and I can go in and I can modify that as well. I can even change the background. I can allow other people to edit and collaborate with it. I'm not going to show every one of these features, but you can see it's got a few new features in here. Now, probably the most striking element that you can see here is we've now got this create box. And with the create box, I have the option of adding notes in here. And I'm just going to go in here. We'll hold down the eraser. If we click on the eraser, what's going on? Why can't I erase the whole thing? Well, I can erase all the elements, but I do not have the option to hold the eraser and clear the entire board. If I go into settings here, I do not have a clear board. If you go to the regular app that we used to have before, so this is my Microsoft app that I had for the whiteboard. If I go in here and I draw something on here, so I'll just go in and draw something on here, right? One of the options that I always had is if I hold on the eraser, hold down the eraser, I can clear the canvas. If I go to my settings up here, I have the option to clear the canvas. That's very handy when we're teaching. It's not a feature available on the web or the meeting interface. Going back to the new whiteboard over here, we can go in and add things such as a note. So notes, put in a nice sticky note in there, put that in there. Now, if I go to this note here, I can do a number of things with it. I can put alt text in there. I can move it forwards and backwards. Let's just scroll out a little bit here. So you can see I can bring it to front. I can send it to the back. I can change the color of the note. I can add some text in there. You can do a number of things. But one thing you can't do, let's say I resize this note. I can't copy and paste it. And if I put in a new note, it's going to not put in a note of the size I just had. It's going to put it in as the default size. So if I want to put down 10 notes that are exactly the same, I'm going to have to manually change the size of every single note. Now, some of you might say, well, why don't you just use Control or why don't you just use a Control C and then a Control V? I can't. It doesn't work. This is a major failure that I cannot take an object that I've drawn and I cannot copy it. And if I go in and I, use the lasso around it, so I've selected it here, there's no copy paste. I can either change the color or delete it, but I cannot copy and paste elements within my whiteboard. This is a major problem, but we have the ability to go in and create pretty notes. Text is text, same thing. If I go in and I put in new text here, I can type text in there, grab text, put in some new text, hello world, okay? And again, I have no option here to copy and paste this. If I want to go in and let's say I want to create 3 scenario questions and I want to look at different answers for them, I can't copy and paste that text. And if I select that text and right click on it, nothing's happening. Select that text, right click. If I go Control C, go Control V, copy paste does not work on the new whiteboard. So there's already the first thing that's a problem. We can go in and put in shapes. Same thing. I can put in a nice rectangle, change the color, move it forward and backwards, delete it. I can even put alt text on it, no copy paste. If we go in and we work with reactions, let's say I have a reaction here and I want to say, oh, this is a great idea. I put that in there. I can put a check mark in there. So I've got a reaction in there. But if I go to the old whiteboard and let's say I go in here and I post a note here, notice I can move this here. Let's say I want to go and say ideas number 1, and maybe I want to have the instructions there. I can copy this. I can paste this in, right? So you can go copy paste. So you have the option of actually doing something much more efficient with the old version of my whiteboard. And then instead of putting a reaction, I can actually upvote it. So I can actually go in here and I can have people go in and vote on the ideas. That's not going to be an option with the new whiteboard. You don't have the option of putting copy paste. You do not have the option of reacting real time to the specific object. Your reactions have to be selected and then pasted to where you would like them. So again, something that a little bit of a concern for me. We can put images in. Now we could always put images in the old whiteboard as well. In the old whiteboard, if I wanted to put an image in, I would go to images. I could choose a library image. I could search the web to put an image in there, or I could even take an image from my camera. These are all very convenient, especially the Bing image where I might want to search for something for my whiteboard that I don't have a picture of. If I go, so I'll go to a Bing image here, and I can quickly go out here and I could search something like a cat. Everybody loves a cat on the internet. So I can go in here, I can put a Creative Commons cat on there. I've now got an image of a cat. If I go to the new whiteboard and I put in an image, I have to browse my computer for an image. If I do not have that image, then I'm not going to be able to get it. I'm going to have to search for it, or there's going to be additional steps in there. I just happen to fortunately have this image here. But again, I find that problematic as well. Now let's go ahead and erase the entire canvas. Let's see. Once again, we can't erase the entire canvas. The only thing I can do is manually go in there, choose the erase, and notice I can't erase anything. So I'll just scroll down so that it's small. Then I'll go in. I'll have to grab a lasso around the whole thing, and then I can delete it. Now, of course, if I wanted a brand new whiteboard, I could have just gone into the home and created a new whiteboard. But what if I wanted to delete half of the elements on there? Big problem. Now, this is the one area where the new whiteboard's kind of nice, these templates. You have all these different templates for brainstorming, problem solving, and let's go into, say, a strategy. We'll do an assumption grid here. So I can place this anywhere I want on the whiteboard, and you'll see that it's quite small. So I can scroll in. So now that I'm sitting at 4,000, well, what percentage am I? Notice when I scroll in and scroll down, I don't know what percentage of my whiteboard is there. I don't know if I'm at 17% or if I'm at 400%. If I go to the old whiteboard, notice when I scroll in and out, it actually gives me an indicator underneath my mouse of what percentage I'm at. So I can scroll up to 500%, I can scroll down. So this is actually telling me where I am in relation to the size of that specific canvas. So again, that's something that I find problematic. I do love all of the different templates, and here on the old whiteboard, I mean, if we go into the plus here, there were templates that were in preview, and we had a few, and this is where I really thought we would see something come out in the new whiteboard that would be very useful. I thought that this is where they would expand things, but instead they said, we're going to do a whole bunch of templates, but we're just going to give them to you. We're not going to tell you when you're scrolling in and out. And this almost seems like, you know, where the concentration was. But forgetting about things like cut and paste, that's highly problematic. Now, it even becomes problematic if we go just into a blank canvas. Once again, I can't select the template. So if I go to erase, I can't get rid of this template. The only thing I can do is scroll so it's very small, right? So I can scroll and then I can grab the whole thing, and then I can delete it that way if I want to clear my canvas. I don't know what percentage my canvas is at, by the way. So if I go and grab a pen here and I start writing with this pen, right? So I start writing with this pen, that looks like a very thin line. It's not. This pen is actually set to be very thick. So I'll put it at its maximum thickness. That's not very thick, is it? But that's because I'm scrolled right out. If I scroll in, you'll notice that all of a sudden that pen is a thick pen, but I don't know whether I'm at 100%, 110%, 32%. I just don't know. So this becomes a problematic thing when we're working with pen thickness, and it becomes because we don't know what our current level of zoom is on this. There's no way to find out. So there again, we have a bit of a challenge there. There are some things that I kind of like. If I go in and I draw a triangle, for example, so I'll draw the triangle. In that case, it went directly to a triangle because I have enhanced ink shapes automatically, right? If I go in and I say, okay, I want to go in and I'll just draw on here. I'll just draw some shapes on here. Say, okay, I want to take this object and I want to replicate it. You're not doing that. So if I want to take this object and look at it in different aspects, there's no replication available. This is, again, highly problematic. If I have, let's say I create a complex object, I want to replicate it 3 times and look at various aspects of it, you're not going to be able to do that with the new whiteboard because that basic copy-paste feature is not there. If I go in and I say I want to export it, I can export it out to a PNG image. That's great. We could always do that. When I use the old whiteboard, if I go out and do an export here, you can export it out either as a PNG or an SVG image if you want that higher quality. There is no SVG export in the new Microsoft Whiteboard. So we can see we have some problems here with the new whiteboard. Some of the things that I was hoping to see is within the management of it, we can rename a lot of the whiteboards. But if I go in and rename this one, this is an untitled whiteboard. I'll call it something like Aardvark versus Anteaters. In this case here, you would hope that it would alphabetize them. So we put these in alphabetical order, not going to happen. The only thing you see is the last whiteboard always takes precedence. So if I open that whiteboard and then I go back to the home, whatever the last whiteboard I worked on will, I just have to refresh this, will find its way to the front. And that's handy if I'm working on the same. Well, it's going to take a while to get there. But if I go through this, you can see that, again, there's no way to really manage my whiteboards. So if I want to create a whiteboard in advance, I can name it, but I may find myself searching for it if I use a lot of whiteboards over time. As an instructor, I often teach the same sessions, so I like to create a whiteboard for a starting point, and then I like to use that as a template to demo or discuss topics and I can't do that. So that's something I couldn't do before, so you can't give, too much negativity on that one. But unfortunately, that's a feature that I was really hoping to see introduced, some sort of file management around whiteboards or some way to work with them in the future. Can't do that. Now, everything I showed you in the web-based interface, it's exactly the same way in a meeting. Of course, with the meeting, we have a few other things. I'm down here in the corner here, so I'll just turn my camera off. But, down below here, if you have multiple participants, they'll all show up here. You can go in here and you can allow people to edit. So that's good for collaboration and such. But there's no cut and paste. There's no voting system. There's a lot of different problems with this new whiteboard. And what they've taken away actually is more important than the things that they've added. As far as I can see, the only thing they've really added that's of any benefit are the templates and maybe some of the collaboration with the cameras. But other than that, it's a bit of a swing and a miss, and I hope that that can be rectified. Well, there you have it. Not the greatest of news. I mean, cut and paste, that's pretty basic for me. Having a bunch of new templates just isn't going to cut it for me. I'm probably going to have to move to some third-party product that's going to allow me to actually do some of my basic functional things that I do when I'm teaching using a collaborative tool such as a whiteboard to build up scenarios, to do all the types of things that you would expect to be able to do on a regular whiteboard environment. So let's hope Microsoft's listening. Let's hope they receive feedback like this the way it's intended, as being constructive, to highlight some of the things that we need in the product. And let's hope that we see some evolution of the product to include some of that basic functionality that we even had and that we need back, as well as some functionality that I was hoping would be in this version that isn't there, such as file management. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but let's see what happens in the future.